Thank you. All right, thank you. I'll grab this clicker. All right, good morning. Everyone can hear me? Okay, I'm going to try not to yell like in your face here, but so that everybody can hear me there. So today's talk is about self-care. Is it selfish? So this is for group participation. So what do you all think self-care is? So when I ask you, not just an activity, but when somebody tells you like, oh, you need to engage in self-care, what comes to mind of like, what should I be doing? What does that mean to engage in self-care? Any ideas? We got some luxurious stuff going on over here. Bubble bath, there we go. Spa days. We got focusing on our mental health, our physical health. What were you guys?
Relaxation.
Some relaxation. Going to the doctor when we're sick, right? So when I was thinking about this presentation, working in mental health, I have a lot of people when we start talking about self-care, they go more for this, it's gotta be this really relaxing, and I'm gonna have a bubble bath, I'm gonna do like a spa day, if we could all go on vacation, how great would that be? But we can't do that every day, right? Because life gets in the way of stuff. But this tends to be kind of an idea of self-care, of some of those things of, well, what all goes into our self-care? How do we define that activity? So we need to have an idea, though, of what self-care is. So a couple definitions. So Webster defines it as care for oneself. I don't know what that means, though. Like, that's pretty vague. All right, that could be anything, right? So Oxford gives us a little bit more. It's the practice of activities that are necessary to sustain life and health. It's normally initiated and carried out by the individual themselves, for him or for herself. So, gives us a little bit more. These are any activities that it's about sustaining my life. This is not just about the above and beyond. This is, even as you were saying, going to the doctor to take care of ourselves. That helps me sustain my life. So, we already got some examples of what you do for self-care, so I like that. We go to the doctor for self-care. What are some other things people do here? What do you do? Exercise, okay. Come to Women's Wellness, right? We're learning about different things for ourselves. Yes, ma'am. Right, so our nutrition is important, right? What are we eating? What does that give us for sustaining our life? The sleep is important. A lot of people, we don't always think about those things. We're like, I know I should be getting it, but the fact of our quality of our life, sleep is a big factor. Nutrition is a big factor. But I still want to incorporate the other, like relaxing and indulgent self-care. It's that balance of all of it, because we need all of that. So when we talk about some of these things, what gets in the way? Life, yeah. Everybody said it, life. Like, this is just, whatever it is, right? Life just gets in the way. We all were going through a pandemic. That got in the way, through all sorts of curveballs of how are we supposed to take care of ourselves when we're locked in our homes. What are we supposed to do? You're not supposed to be around people. Well, what if I love being around people and I like being social? Now I can't. How am I supposed to do these things? So some of the articles I'll talk about today, some of them stemmed from this idea of what we went through with COVID, and understanding even in those moments we really had to refigure out, how do we take care of ourselves? How do we engage in self-care to just even survive that, right? But life in general, right? Caring for our family members, work, right? We're supposed to exercise, but where am I supposed to find time for that when I got to cook, I got to clean, I got to go to the doctors? So we got all these things that life, it gets in the way. So how do we incorporate self-care? So when we were thinking about self-care, have we ever thought that it's selfish? Yeah, ooh, so we got a little divide here. So the work that I do, most of my patients, when I start telling them about ways to take care of themselves, a lot of them talk about how it's selfish, because I take care of my family. Their needs come before mine. Mine are the last. Now I agree. Yours should be priority. But many times we get focused, especially if we're primary caregivers for loved ones, or if we're raising our kids, or, grandchildren, we're helping with all that. It becomes about, we want to be there for them. We put their needs in front of our own. Now we may go, that's important to me because I love my family. I want to take care of them. But we forget that at the same time, we need to take care of ourselves in order to do that. Yeah. So when I'm working with my patients and they talk about that, well, I feel guilty when I start doing that, or I set a boundary and I tell my family I can't show up for them that way, or I have to do this for myself at this time, and they kind of get upset about it. It makes me feel like I'm being selfish. So we're going to get in what I start working with my patients on, of the fact that it's not and why it's not. So this one's to you. No amount of baths is going to make you feel better, right? So, but here's why. Because we are seeking balance and wholeness and well-being in our everyday self-care. Now, I love the people who can. That's part of their routine. They make sure they make time. And I have friends and clients who are like, no, every day I get home from work, I'm doing a 20, 30-minute bath. That's my time. Nobody gets it. I'm relaxing. That is. But it went through this idea. So this Quincy Adams, so he did a research study. He was talking to university students about this idea of self-care, how they balance self-care with life and being a student. So he came up with these different areas of kind of this push-pull kind of thing going on between self-care, if it's selfish, and how they get more of this like wholeness, not just in this moment, but that it's lasting. And I'm doing long-term self-care that has the long-term ripple effects. So one of the first things that he was talking with students about, and the theme that kept coming up, was that it was more now about thriving, not just surviving. At times, I'll have people come in my office and they're like, I feel like I'm just going through the motions. I can't seem to get ahead. Every day, it's like life is throwing so much at me, and I don't think I have time to take a break. You're just surviving. What self-care became about is, how do I thrive? How do I find the activities that give me that longer term, that are having this longer ripple effect, that add to me eventually thriving? In this moment, I might not get that immediate, but that eventually I'm seeing these steps that I'm taking, they're going to pay off into me having this thriving life. May not be immediate, it's about the long term. So then they talk about self-control versus self-indulgence. So I loved this in this article. It started bringing up the, I don't know who all remembers, YOLO, and, treat yourself, right? And so that's the self-indulgent, right? Because in those moments, sometimes we're not thinking about the consequence long-term. We're going, I'm just living in this moment and I'm going to enjoy. And that's great. But that can be self-indulgent. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's contributing to our thriving. In that moment, it's enjoyable, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to thrive later from it. Versus if I'm showing some self-control and I start putting bits and pieces that are maybe still somewhat enjoyable and indulgent, but I'm getting that long-term effect now. Not just this is where I think about, some people will tell me, well, I'm going to go on vacation. That's when I'm going to relax. I said, so for 355 days, you're just going to be stressed the whole time? We're just going to make it through. We're just surviving at that point, and then we're hoping a 10-day vacation just gives us that break. And I'm like, that's not realistic. That's not actually, we're just in survival mode then. And that vacation, we're putting a lot of pressure on a vacation to solve everything. So then they get into taking a break. This is a big thing with individuals that come into my office about how they use self-care. So when we take a break and we say that we're going to engage in some self-care tonight, who here does I'm going to binge my favorite show? Yeah. What I tell my patients, do you ever ask yourself how you feel afterwards? Yeah, so it was just making you tired. Did it make you feel better though? We don't know, because we're usually not asking. And sometimes we're doing certain activities saying we're giving ourselves a break, but really what we're doing is we're avoiding some other stuff. I'm great at procrastination. I've gotten rewarded for it for years. So it's something I know sometimes I'm avoiding some stuff. But when I'm starting to be more intentional about, well, if I'm trying to thrive, the breaks that I'm trying to take, how do those actually recharge me? So when I'm going to engage in a self-care task, I want to make sure it recharges me. So then they get into the long-term and the immediate, which we were kind of talking about. We want our task to be that it's giving us these long-term ripple effects, that I'm thinking about the long-term as what I do now. It doesn't have to be that it's super enjoyable, but I'm thinking about how this is going to benefit me as I go. Now, symbiotic care and caring cycles. This gets into care for my family, and I've got to focus on caring for everybody else. I'm a person who really enjoys helping other people, right? That's me personally. I really do like it. That's why I went into this field. That's why I enjoy what I do. But that doesn't mean that I can't care for myself at the same time. It can be very recharging to me when I'm able to help other people, but sometimes it can be really draining. So I need to know when I also am taking care of myself, when what I'm going to do to caring for others does give me that recharge versus when now I've just exerted too much. So my favorite analogy, a car, what does it need to go? We need gas. Yeah, we need to do all the, oil change, because I'll get one today. All those things that we got to do to make sure the car gets from A to B in order for it to take care of people. I'm the car. If I want to care for everybody else, I got to make sure I'm taking care of myself, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to do it. Or everybody's going to be kind of worried about if they're letting me help them and I'm in shambles, right? So why self-care isn't selfish. So this was a New York Times article. She talks about self-care ultimately is about setting priorities, setting boundaries, but finding your purpose. And really it was about, even if I'm caring for others, how does that align with the purpose I have for myself? If I'm doing activities and doing things that would align with my values, what I think is important to me, and focusing on that first, not what everybody else tells me I should be doing or what's important to them, but mine, that's part of self-care. So she gave some exercises. So just of like ideas of things we could be doing. So one of them, which I really liked, is what are the best hours of your day? If we sleep for 8 hours, then we have 16 hours left. Where is it that we have the most energy? When are we the most focused? When are we the most motivated? Now, a lot of times we give those hours to somebody else. So now we got to take control of it and bring it back to ourselves. Where do I put that for me? Now, it could be at work, because maybe we really love our job and we really want to be focusing on it, and that gives us that long-term thriving. But we're going to be intentional about it. This is when I got the most energy and the most motivation. How do I capitalize it for my values, for my purpose in life? The other one, I think, again, like it talks about, help someone else as long as it contributes to your purpose, to your values. Or picking a word of the year. So if I'm thinking about what I want this next year to be for me, what do I want to be living towards? So one of it, she picked a word and was like, I didn't realize it at the time, but I started doing things to kind of work towards that, to make sure I was acting in a way that aligned with that. So these are just some examples. If you're wanting some of them, again, come find me afterwards. I can kind of give them to you. But of different things we can be doing to be more intentional with our self-care, making sure that we're not just surviving, we're thriving. Because we tend to then feel guilt when we focus on ourselves, especially if we're individuals who tend to like to care for everybody else and make sure that we're support for everybody else. We forget about ourselves. And we need to do that in order to show up for them. Right?
Can we thank you very much for...
Thank you all so much.
And really, we've gotten great information that we can keep in our brains and think about and be intentional about, just as Heather has said. What I'm going to offer to you next is an experience that also can nurture your soul. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to get grounded. And I'm going to invite everybody just to kind of stand up for a second. Let's shake out our bodies, because we've been sitting for about 15, 20 minutes now. And just whatever works, just this for a couple of minutes. Ooh, stretch, bend. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Great job. Whew. All right, now, have a seat. I just wanted to, yeah, ooh. Yep, I always like to shake that out first. That's a good plan before you do a meditation. Get your feet straight on the ground, okay? And I'm going to invite you to pay attention to the breath, pay attention to your surroundings, check out where we are. This is safe. We're here. We're right now. I'm going to practice just a soft belly breath with you. Soft belly is your You can't hear me still?
She was being relaxing.
Yeah, she's trying, but I tell y'all, it's challenging now. So here we go. Okay. Got your feet straight on the ground. Align your spine straight up. Chin horizontal to the floor. And then we're going to take a soft belly breath. Your belly's going to be soft and expand when you take breath in through your nose. I always invite people to close their eyes if you're comfortable doing so. If you're not comfortable, just look down so that your focus of attention is not on anything in particular. Okay? This is a little icing on the cake of self-care. This is going to be a guided heart meditation for gratitude. We'll use the heart, we'll use the breath, we'll use the imagination. The cultivation of gratitude is a self-care practice that can be very powerful in helping us deal with life's challenges, even when it seems like there's not a whole lot to be grateful for. Even then, especially then. This particular meditation was found online, and it was found University of California, Berkeley, and I experienced it at a training for a Center for Mind-Body Medicine. So I'm going to share that with you now. Allow this guided meditation on gratitude to connect with you and nurture you. Okay. Slow, deep breath. Bring yourself to the present moment. Begin the process of feeling more peaceful and centered. Again, scan your body. Any tension, any tightness, breathe into it, let go. Let your warm, oxygen-filled breath into that area and release the tension. Now, notice any worries, any fear, any anger, any irritation. Breathe into those emotions, note them, allow them to flow out as you breathe out. Another breath into any uncomfortable emotions. Use the breath, energy in, tension out. Now that our bodies and our emotions and our thoughts are a little clearer, a bit more spacious and open, we can begin to focus on the events and experiences, people, pets, or possessions for which we feel grateful. Again, breathe in, exhale. We have the gift of life itself, the most precious gift. Someone gave birth to you. Someone fed you as an infant, changed your diaper, clothed you, bathed you, taught you to speak and to understand. We have the gift of hearing. You can learn, whether it's the song of a bird, the notes of a band, an orchestra, the songs of singing and voices, the sound of your own breath flowing in and flowing out. We can experience life through the gift of sound. We have the gift of a heartbeat. See if you can feel that heartbeat now. moment after moment, pumping fresh, life-giving blood to all of your organs. Now, I invite you to think about all the things we have today that make our lives easier and more comfortable than they were for our great-grandparents. We flip a switch and a light appears. We turn a tap and clean, drinkable water flows. We adjust a thermostat and a room grows warmer or cooler. We have a roof to keep us dry when it rains, walls to keep out the cold wind, and windows to let in the light. We have screens to keep out insects. We enter a vehicle and it takes us where we want to go. We have access to machines that wash our clothes. We have clothes to wear, places to store them. There are machines that store our food at just the right temperature, and machines that help us cook it without having to gather wood. We have indoor plumbing. And we have public libraries that have thousands of books and recordings, free for anyone to borrow and read. We have public schools that can teach us to read and write, skills that were available to only the very few just a few hundred years ago in this country, and still not available to many throughout the world. Now I invite you to take a moment to reflect on all the thousands of people who have worked hard, some without knowing you at all, to make your life easier or more pleasant. Some who plant, grow, and harvest your food, others who transport that food to market. Teams of people who make the roadways and railways work, transporting all goods and services and food to us. Another team who maintain the vehicles. There are drivers and loaders and unloaders. There are those who take the time to design the stores, the shelves, the packaging that keep our food safe and allow us to select what we need and want. We have postal service. Somebody sorts the mail. Somebody delivers it. We have people who maintain servers so that we can get and send email and access the internet. There are those who design operations and systems for gathering, sorting, and disposing of trash and recycling. We have people who gather news stories and photos. We have people who create many mechanisms by which the news can reach us. We have people who play sports to entertain us. We have people who create art, music. There are plays and poems and films, all to entertain and teach and educate us. And most of these people are people you have never met or barely know. Now, consider the people and the pets you know who enrich your life, those who smile at you and cheer you on, family, friends, acquaintances, colleagues, peers, your ancestors who worked so hard so that you could live a better life, friends who support you when you need a shoulder or a hand. Breathe in, experience, breathe out. My invitation now is that you take a moment to reflect on your own very personal and intimate reasons for feeling gratitude in this very moment. It will take a few moments for you to travel that course. There is really so much to be grateful for. Gratitude can fill our hearts and minds and uplift our spirits. Gratitude can help us feel whole and nurtured, safe and secure, appreciative and resilient, peaceful and hopeful. We're going to begin to wind down now. Notice your body, notice your breath, and rest quietly for another minute. Notice how you feel throughout your body. Notice your emotions and thoughts compared now to with how you were before you started. No judgment, just noticing, mindful noticing. And now, take a few more breaths in and out. Secure what you found and learned on this journey, and take that with you as a learning kernel through the rest of your days. With practice, you can find yourself feeling grateful easily wherever you are. And to compound this practice, you can begin a gratitude journal. Begin every morning with noting 3 to 5 things that you're eternally grateful for, or just momentarily grateful for. That can secure and ground that sense of gratitude and well-being. Slowly, I'm going to invite you to open your eyes and join all of us back in the room together again. Thank you. Thank you for letting me share this with you.